What's up? It's Matt Plapp. We are back with another restaurant expert roundup. I'm on the road. I'm up in Minneapolis, Minnesota at Sammy's Pizza, shooting podcasts all week. But today, I've got a special guest. I've got Jason Berkowitz with Arrow Up Training, but more importantly, with Don't Sleep with the Host. The book, the best title ever. Jason, welcome.
Thanks. Good to be here, man. Awesome.
So I guess for the audience, introduce yourself. I know you from the book, so I don't know a whole lot about the background of your company, but tell everybody who you are, what you do.
Sure. Jason Berkowitz, long-time operator. Been in the game forever. Started 14 at Burger King. Made myself the King Whopper Copper, in the back of the kitchen. Worked my way up and got a degree in psychology, which really helped when I moved back to Minneapolis. But loved restaurants, and every time I left the industry, I kept fighting to come back into it. And along the way, I've had the real pleasure of opening up some of the greatest restaurants, working with some of the best chefs across the country, scaling some incredible restaurant concepts, VP of Operations for Umami Burger, Chief Operating Officer for the Madera Group, which is Organica, which is growing fast, and I've worked with Bloomfield, and most recently opened Gucci and Massimo Battero's first restaurant in the United States. Even while I'm doing Arrow Up Training now, I shut down the consulting, but when they call, we say yes. And I'm a restaurant partner and opener, an owner, and just love this business. And so moved into the thing that I noticed most that I always loved a job every time I would start, no matter what it was, from chief operating officer to general manager to service manager. I would show up and I would try to put a great training program together. And so Arrow Training is a combination in an online world. I understand that when you start, you got to show everybody expectations. Right now we do safety and compliance training. One of the greatest anti-harassment training courses, funny enough, and in COVID safety, really filling the needs right now for everybody in California for cultural-based training that speaks to our industry. I know I'm kind of word vomiting a bit, but over the book real quick is that I've written a few years back and we just recently released last year because I just kind of held on to it and playing around with it a little bit. That I had great owners and general managers with me along the way. And I looked at the concept out there. 50 tips. Handing to the manager, having that chip. Look, pirate ship. And fortunately, I get taken away from it with all that's going on. So there are lessons. And so we'll get to it, I'm sure, talk about it. But, we have a unique culture and a unique voice. We got to talk to each other in that voice, whether it's anti-harassment training, whether it's a book, whether it's right getting out, whether we talk to each other when closing down.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be an interesting topic for most. When I saw the book title and I saw Don't Sleep with the Host, I went to Don't Sleep with the Hostess, but then I kind of saw it and taught and really got to understand what it was all about. And I think that it's definitely an atmosphere that breeds a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
Because of the age of the people, because a lot of things happening out there. Question: you have like a mic? Can you change your mic? I think it's garbling up. I don't think it's really strange what it switched to. I thought it was mine, but somebody just texted me that it's like garbled a little.
Try this.
Okay.
Is that tighter?
Oh, yeah, that's great. So, I've seen it. I've seen it. Many operators we've dealt with in the past because I deal with hundreds of restaurants. And you see whether it's the 45-year-old divorced owner that all of a sudden is now the big wig, and you also see a lot of the things happen there. But it's a lot of things I think that can really crush the culture of a business because at the end of the day, how your restaurant operates, with everything going on is all a product of the environment.
100%. And the tone that I take, even in that chapter, and it's funny. I was releasing the book roughly around 2016, and as Me Too started to take flight, I pulled back on it. And I tried to think of every other title in there. I mean, there's so many like lead titles that I think could work, right? The noose fits just as easily around the hangman's neck and what that means. But this one, I kept going back to it and holding off on releasing it. And the reason being, and then what I ended up doing, somebody had said to me was, why don't you change hostess to host? So it's funny that, right, you drive into that. And then it's a little gender neutral. And kind of like, and 49 other tips for managing a successful restaurant and profitable restaurant. And the reason I kept sticking to it was I wrote the title, then wrote the book. But then the other one is, it is just the new culture. And when I talk about that section, I talk about it in an understanding way of saying, like, look, some of the greatest leaders I've ever worked with, some of the rock stars of rock stars have done it. And it's mutual wanted, right? The hostess or whomever you're sleeping with, it's but there is a power play involved in it, and there is a power dynamic, and so it's just wrong. And then the truth comes down to it is you lose a lot of the credibility with your team, both the employee and the management, when you are, because somebody's got something on you. You miss that idea of separating yourself from the mix, which you just need to do. And that's part of what the book is like. You're not friends. I mean, it's a hard thing, right? Because we're just so close in this environment. And funny enough, I've incredible GMs that I've talked to since who are like, I married the host. I'm like, I get it, right? Sometimes it works, but it usually doesn't. And the way the world is moving as well, that's it. There's no out of it. You're putting your job on the line. You're putting your culture on the line, and you're messing with their job and culture. Their ability, the hostess or the server, or their ability to grow diminishes a little bit as well from the respect that they get. Oh, I lost you now.
There we go. So yeah, I didn't know that was the original title or one of the titles you work with. So it's funny it went down that. What would you say out of the 49 other tips, what are 2 or 3 that you've seen in your experience with operating a restaurant are truly impactful for making sure that, my podcast, for example, is MPTV. MP, my initials is Matt Plapp. Making profit is the MP I always play off it. Obviously, in the restaurant business, profit is elusive, especially in 2020. What would be 2 or 3 of those other 49 you would pull out that you've seen that are huge?
Well, what's funny is, let's take the simplest one. I noticed that you popped it up in the promotion post, was take care of your feet. And it's such a simple one, right? Change your socks mid-shift is one of the ones that I learned. I couldn't believe how much this resonated with young managers and veteran managers coming up. I'm like, dude, when you're working a double, change your socks. And here's an idea, right? First off, it feels like you're starting a new shift, but there's a larger ethos around this. And what that is the idea, are you at your best? And so when you're humming at your best, it's translating over and you're putting in the effort. So any of these tips that lead to you exercise, drink water, change your socks, that you're humming and paying attention, it's measure of percentages and details and fine points. So I talk about be on the floor, not in the back office. Well, if you've got the energy and you're feeling good and you've taken care of yourself, you're out there. And when you're out there, you're out there. And so having your finger on the pulse of the shift is just so important. Look, we're running leaner these days. Businesses are running leaner because we're running with less people, smaller staff, working on less profits. So you have to be out there, but you also, it's an interesting thing that I talk to operators that they're balancing with, which is the idea of A, can they get enough employees to come back? B, so that they can manage themselves on the business and not to in. But B is they still got to be upfront and out there and making sure that doors are being sanitized, guests are being taken care of, that hospitality and service are happening. And so it's a balance, and it's really more important than ever that you take care of yourself, and so that you're rocking the best that you can. Know the profit and loss statement is huge. Just get into the numbers, and I find if you can pop a couple stats off to people. It's really important. And just these little stats, whether it be to ownership or management or your servants, and saying, wow, I love it. In this day and time, you literally upped your per person average by, $1.20. How'd you do that? And so by showing and engaging with your team and taking care of yourself and being out there, those all together really do make a difference as far as where, the profit, right? Make the profit and loss of it all. And some of the ones are a little bit softer, that I think are really important. What's a fun one is, I say, one of them is, for everyone you kill, another will rise in their place. And what I'm talking about is a lesson that I learned a long time ago, that sometimes you got to keep a couple, not bad apples, but a couple people who are going to attract all the drama on the team, because we as humans need a little bit of drama, and you can't have all aces. You need somebody in the band that you make a little fun of, or somebody who everyone's a little upset with, or on the sports team that they rip and rag on a little bit. And having that is important. And I talk about, I get into this in one of the ideas of, like, people will complain that one of the servers is a little greedy. Great. Are they dropping little fires that you can control, or is this a big one that's going to take the place out? But it's important, because if you let a little one burn, the team forms, because when you fire them and get rid of them or let them go, someone else is going to rise. There's always going to be a little bit of problem, a little bit of trouble. And that comes down to curating and cultivating a little bit of a healthy culture. And so for those that are looking to get the book, there's little ones like this inside of here that I love. When somebody writes me and they're like, son of a bitch, you're right. I think back to the playground. There was always a little somebody, but then we were able to form our bond.
Yeah, I go back to when you change your socks. Are you at your best? And it's kind of ironic in that it reflects pretty easily on, like, my day yesterday. I mean, I flew to Minneapolis Monday, and we've been up here shooting podcasts, traveling to restaurants. Yesterday started at 5 a.m. because I usually get up at 6 a.m. back home. It's 5 a.m. here. My mind still wakes up, and I laid down and went to bed at midnight. And there was no break all day. That's a long day. One of the reasons I was able to do it and be at my best was twice during the day I stopped and exercised. I did two 45-minute workouts. I did an hour CrossFit class and then another 45-minute workout yesterday. And I've done that now for, I think, almost 50, 60 days. I've done 2 workouts a day, but I've been working out consistently for 10 years. I think in the restaurant business, one thing I see that's needed big time is the people. You're around good food. And I've always said that when you have a bad day, you comfort with a burger, fries, and Mountain Dew. When you have a good day, you're like, hey, I'm going to get a burger, fries, and Mountain Dew. And when it's free to you as an operator, or many managers or many employees, it's easy to eat crappy. It's easy to make the excuse that you are on your feet all day not to exercise. And that's what makes you at your worst, when you just build that up after month after month after month. I see clients of mine that they say, man, I need to get back on the train. It's been 5 years. And you can just tell it's just exhausting.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing too. You never eat worse than when you're opening a restaurant and you're just literally shoving food in your mouth. Chris Cosentino, great, chef out of San Francisco. He taught me when we opened up a restaurant together that first thing you need to do is buy a whole box of granola and get it ready. And then in opening up a restaurant, get milk in the fridge and granola there. Then make the deal with the local deli of any kind that cold cuts are arriving, and some sort of regular basis, so that you can swap it out at any time, but you've got that granola there. You've got that. You can't wait for the line to get ready to feed you. You need to look at it like fuel. And you're exactly right. I mean, opening up pizza restaurants, you're going to eat pizza. You're going to be constipated. You're not going to feel good. It's like all of these things that start to happen. And I open a lot of umami burgers. That's burgers and fries all day. And like, you're right. You've got to make good choices, but you need to make sure that it's available for you. So here's something, right? Depending on where your seniority is your relationship with the chef and with the cook, and maybe you're the owner and you can say, make this dish for me, or you're a manager. But you want to you want to make sure that the food's there and that you've got some sort of regular system and setup, and that you're not taxing the line by asking for something crazy. So one of the, I'm FOH, but as an owner and partner and chief operating officer, I've overseen FOH and BOH, but I'm FOH, right? I can't stay out till 5 drinking and show up at 7 in the morning and start cutting the fish. Like, it's just not how I'm built. So I would jump on the sword immediately with any jobs that I'd be a part of. I'm like, call me what you want, anything. This is the menu that I'm looking for. This is what I need. What's the best time for me to order it so that I'm not messing with the line, so that I'm respecting the flow of the kitchen and the chef's kitchen. And I don't care who you are, and to all you owners out there, and to all your vice presidents and CEOs and all that, whomever runs the kitchen, it's their kitchen. And you, yes, chef, and thank you. And does this work with your process? And how does this flow? Because all of those little things, if it's about you and not about them, that's just a trail of unintended consequences that just screws so much up. So taking this back, exercise, drink water. It's amazing how many people don't realize that instead of the 4 o'clock coffee, go for 2 waters and then half the coffee. Things like this to add as you remove a little bit is really important. So, but you gotta, like anything, like you've timed this, you know what you need, you know where you're going to work out when you pull into a place, right? You've probably already pre-set up where your CrossFits, you know what you can do, and especially in a time of COVID. So take the effort and show up and strategize so that you can actually run the plan.
Yeah, and I always crack up because you hear the excuse a lot. I hear it from friends like, oh, I'm too busy to work out. I can't make it to the gym. I can't get this done. And I'm like, you know what? I went on YouTube yesterday, found a 30-minute video on some stretching that was pretty hardcore, turned it on my phone, took 30 minutes off, put my headphones on and stretched. It got my mind right. I got some rest, and then my body got a little beat up. It's hard to believe, but stretching is legit when you do it right. And there's no reason you can't do it. Like, I'm in a restaurant right now, and I mean, there's my team's up here, but there's nobody else here. It's 2 p.m. in Minneapolis. You could come up here. You could have 5 of your employees come up here and do a little 20-minute yoga session.
You can do it, and I'm careful, right? I never talk about somebody else's business. Another one, right? And I'm going to take this back. No one, I would like to say, and if anyone's watching, catch me on this, has heard me walk up and say I'm tired. No one's ever heard me say that. Once I learned that, past a point in my life. And the reason being, is my mother, my very loving mother, taught me a long time ago, no one really cares. So that's first and foremost, and that comes from love. But B, you don't know what anybody else in that place is dealing with. And so I'm tired, but I'm working with these guys that are working 2 shifts. Then they're going home, and then they got to watch the kids. They're working doubles at 2 different restaurants. We don't know what somebody else is dealing with. And so I'm careful to say I'm too busy with something. A single mom out there working 2 jobs, raising her kid, she's finding time to do something. Excuses are a little, and I don't put it upon somebody else. I just say all we can speak of is from ourselves. It's not something you're hearing out of my mouth intentionally, because if other people find time to do it, you don't want to hear I'm tired or I don't have time to do it out of my mouth.
No, I agree. Okay, so let's talk about Arrow Up Training. What is that all about? What do you do, and how can people contact you and get some of these 49 other ideas out of your head and get running their business better?
I appreciate it. Arrowuptraining.com. Right now we're doing it. So let's talk about the arc and the journey. I am excited to ultimately build the central culture that independent restaurant operators can and mid-size can use as their playbook. And the idea is, because I've built these cultures for companies, I've seen, and I built these training programs, I believed and saw that I can build a program from start to finish that has an identity to it. Let's hold the glass, the bottom 50%. hug the guest, right? Don't worry about serving from the left or the right in the United States. Am I staying out of the guest's way? Point with an open palm instead of a finger. And there's these general rules of a story that come together, right? And then with that, are you communicating with your team like an open palm? Or are you talking with them or at them? And a lot of these little ideas, they all overlap as this general culture. And so I've realized that I can put this in a very scalable fashion to make it very, very easy that general managers and owners and people out there that are a little hungover and they come into work or not, and the Wi-Fi went out and 2 servers didn't show up. How do you just turn it on when the new person arrived and they've got what they need, what it means to be doing a good job? And with this identity that I love, and it's all concept albums to me. It's all art to me. It's art installations. With this identity, you can take them on a training program. Well, here's where I am. Last year I said I'm going to start with anti-harassment training because in California it was becoming the law that you had to do it. And this was the way in. And the idea is, if everyone was going to have to spend an hour learning how to treat each other, I want to make that course. And less about, part of it is they've got to take it anyways. But the other part is, again, I have a very specific philosophy about how we treat each other and how you develop cultures. And a lot of it is understanding the inconsistencies of human nature. Please don't sleep with the host, right? It's just kind of like we're all inconsistent. And so by creating content that disarms the expectations of an individual and brings everybody to somewhat of a central platform and starting point, they'll start to listen. And by talking in a way that we're talking with each other, not to each other, we'll start to engage and absorb it. And so we started with a really amazing anti-harassment training course for California. Lo and behold, the governor punted the law last year. And so here I am, put 6 figures into these courses. Everyone's on the line, ready to go. And then, what? We don't need to spend all this money on courses? Push it back. Then we come into the new year getting ready to go again. COVID hits. So, fortunately, we had already started working on safety and pivoted a little bit. So we were in a good place. And as we come around now, we just, teamed up with Jack in the Box and a couple other great national franchises and independent restaurants as we're getting the training out there. One other thing, and not to kind of ramble on, is we will move to service and hospitality, but right now compliance and safety is what people really need. And again, in an arrow up way, and when you see it at arrowuptraining.com, you'll see a really unique tone. So our focus is compliance and then OSHA compliance. So whether it's COVID, whether it's injury and illness, we're giving you the training that you need that, according to OSHA, lowers your injury rate by 25%, which affects your premiums, which affects your turnover, which affects every single thing. I would come into these companies and they were at some of these places I consulted at 4 units and spending $250,000 a year on workers' comp. And I'm just like, and they're worried about the big fall, but they're not worried about cut gloves and the little slips and the knives and stuff like that really add up. And so the idea is we'll create the training, we'll create the content, and then we'll do the follow-up constant general pressure that Danny Myers always talks about in a digital format. And what's really cool is we're growing, right? I mean, we just signed a deal with the city of Santa Monica, and we're their preferred training partner. So we are literally certifying everybody, every business in Santa Monica, COVID training, empathy training. There's a lot we can talk about, so I'll turn it back over. But it's just like, it's going, but right now it's compliance and safety because that's the root of culture.
No, I love it. I love it. I think it's a great thing that's needed. I think I've been around business my whole life. The restaurant business, I've been around for a while. And if there's one place I see that culture is crazy important, I mean, it's everybody works together. Like at our boat dealership, my background, certain departments never talked. You saw each other walking by, this and that. In the restaurant, the busters walk by the servers walk by the hostess sees the bartender sees the kitchen staff. I mean, everybody is one big family. So having that cohesiveness there is amazing. And then on top of that, yeah, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think restaurants were prepared for COVID much more than any other industry because you got to be clean. There's a lot of white glove stuff here anyways, but having that extra step right now is ever more important because it's not going away anytime soon.
No, and there's two things. And if somebody has a real takeaway from this, two things from what you said, which is great. One is to kind of backtrack, be present. That's another reason to be present, because you know what's going on by the interactions and how they're walking past each other, whether or not it's jiving. You shouldn't be, surprised when all of a sudden you realize somebody's not liked by somebody else or abusing somebody or something like that. So you want to really be present. And the other side of it, the real takeaway is if you take care of your team will take care of your guests. And so it's a double shot here. And the first is you want to protect yourself and you want to protect your team first and foremost. So if you have not trained them on COVID safety training, do it. Go find somebody else, come to Arrow Up Training and do it. We got a simple, easy course. Do it. Don't assume everybody's been glued to the news or watching this. They don't. Second is you want a paper trail that you've trained them. And just in case, I think there's going to be some OSHA batten down a little bit the hatches and coming down on operators it's already starting to happen from some real bad operators that the employees are feeling unsafe. You're going to start to get some class actions and things like that. So the first reason you do it is you do it because it's right. And once you take care of your team will then be great ambassadors to welcome your community back. And what's really cool is we've got this certification program where you throw the Arrow Up logo on your window, and that's showing the people we're a part of it. And that's what we're working with Santa Monica. And, but the other reason then is you want a paper trail. And so that's one of the things, like what we built was operators can quickly run through a really, really brief 10-step questionnaire, answer a couple questions, take a couple photos that says, this is where the sanitizer stations are. This is what our PPE looks like. This is where you find the chemicals. This is the floor markings. And you can show to your team so they know what the expectation is. But again, you can self-certify, show the city if need be, and you've got this paper trail for whatever reason. And it is a cover your ass type moment. And it's just win-win. Same with compliance. Protect your team. It protects your business. That's why I'm in this, because it's a win-win. You don't got to pick a side. By taking care of your team and doing it right and training everybody, you're protecting your business.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. So everybody go to Amazon. It's your instructions for the day. It's all you got to do today, the rest of the day. Please don't sleep with the host. Buy the book. After you buy the book, read it. After you read it, leave them an amazing review.
That I appreciate. It's getting the reviews. We've sold a lot of books. And then it's just about getting them to follow up with the review. And they'll send me, I'm getting all these messages. Here we go. And I read it. And what I love is like shots of just operators sitting there having a whiskey and reading the book. I'm like, go to Amazon and tell them. So it's a culture. So I appreciate you're talking about it, because it's the second part of it.
Well, I've my 2 books, my third one came out this year, and the one sold thousands of copies. And I look, there's like 29 reviews, and I'm like, oh, you guys tell me you love it.
Right.
Go to Amazon, leave the damn review.
That's exactly it.
And then the last way, arrowuptraining.com. So reach out, check out the site. If you guys need help, I'm sure he's got a ton of resources there. You can reach out to Jason directly. But Jason, I appreciate you hopping on with me.
Matt, I appreciate it. I think it's great what you're doing. Be safe out there on the road. And it's great how you're supporting the industry and everyone. I really appreciate it.
Cool. One day we'll meet in person. We'll have a coffee and we'll chop it up that way.
We'll have a burger and a beer. We'll just exercise and balance it out.
There we go. We'll just do it in between.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And have a safe rest of the week.
I appreciate it. Talk to you later.